a large majority of who I see graduating out of our 4-year apprenticeship program are so much further ahead than we were at that age. Not just maturity, but intelligence. And they think a different way. They think more fundamentals and more where you can go. And I would tell them, hey, keep at it, because you're going to replace us very soon.
Hello, and welcome to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group. I am your host, Matt Allred. In this podcast, we talk to the people whose lives and careers are dedicated to the vertical transportation industry to inform and share lessons learned, building upon the foundation of those who have gone before to inspire the next generation of elevator careers. Today, our guest is Mitch Nici, Elevator and Escalator Program Manager for the Washington Metro Area Transit Authority in Washington, D.C., overseeing all elevators and escalators. Mitch started his career as a helper with Flynn Hill Elevator in 1985, and in 1992, Mitch moved to Washington, D.C. and joined WMATA. Mitch has been in the industry 37 years and has really enjoyed his career. He is proud of the trade, and he is proud of what he does. Mitch, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Matt.
Thank you. I'm excited to be able to talk with you again. It's been a little while, and it's just fun for me to get to know you a little bit better. And so I wanted to start at the beginning. How did you get involved with elevators in the first place?
So I think, like a lot of people in the industry, when I graduated high school, and this is way back in the day, a lot of my friends, they either went to college, they either knew what they were going to do, they went to college, they took a civil servants test, or they got into a trade, okay, or joined the service. And I kind of fell into that trade. And the way I got into it is my entire family is either cops or elevator mechanics. And okay, that goes from my brother, my father, to my uncles, and all the way up the line. So you're either one or the other in my family. I happen to fall on the elevator side.
And is that something you wanted to do, or did you say, heck no, there's no way I'm going to follow in the family tradition?
So it didn't really interest me. I actually really wanted to be a cop, but as time went on, and the city of New York, they opened their test. They didn't have any open tests. I was working for Pepsi-Cola for a little while, and there was an opportunity at Flynn Hill Elevator for me to be sponsored to start working there as a helper. So that's how I got in the trade.
Okay. Started as a very big, at the very bottom, basically, and working your way up. And how long were you there at Flynn Hill?
So Flynn Hill till 91, 92. So I served my apprenticeship there. Somewhere around 89, Kone bought us out. And Kone, I think we might have been one of the first purchases in the United States. They bought Flynn Hill Elevator and Armor Elevator in New York. And it was funny because we just showed up for work one day, and then all of a sudden it was this, we were known as Flynn Hill Cone.
You're like, what's that?
What's that? I didn't even know it was a worldwide company at the time. I had heard of it. But, after that, through 92, Kone, they were pretty good to me. So I enjoyed working there.
Mm-hmm. Good. So did you stick around for a while, or did you leave shortly thereafter? No,
in 93, I left to come down here in Washington, D.C. I don't know, those in the Northeast may remember 91, 92, 93, things were really rough. There was a lot of people on the bench. So there was people far better than me that were on the bench. And there was an opportunity to work in Washington, D.C. With Metro. And I said, okay, well, I had a wife and 2 little ones at home. I said, I need that paycheck. So I came down here to work, and I worked as a mechanic for a few years. And then I was promoted to supervisor, and then to maintenance manager. In 99, I got my QEI, and that was great. Cool. So I learned the inspection side of the house. I learned the capital side of the house, capital replacement. I got involved. some project management stuff. And now I oversee the entire elevator escalator department, which is
That's a lot.
255 people strong. And so we're pretty big. So I'm happy. I'm proud.
Yeah. Do you ever look back and say, man, I wish I'd have been a cop?
No, I might have gotten into trouble.
That's awesome.
No.
Who were some of the early mentors that really helped you learn the trade and helped you find your place?
Ooh, it was a trade. So going back, believe it or not, my father actually worked for Flynn Hill. And I know things have changed since then and probably for the better, but he used to show up on jobs that I was troubleshooting. And not to help me, he would just stand there and watch me. And that would scare the crap out of me because it's really weird, right? But I really looked up to him. He I'm sure a lot of people, especially older listeners, probably know who he is, who he was. And so he was the one that always wanted me to become better and better and better. And, as a kid, I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I had trouble listening. I did my own thing. I didn't care what anyone said. So, I matured into what I am now, I hope.
Love that.
So, yeah, no, my father, there were other people. There were supervisors. There was a foreman named Richie Polizzi, which I believe has passed away, who was with Kone. And these were guys that really helped me stay on track. So there's a couple of guys from Flynn Hill that I worked with in Brooklyn. I haven't talked to them in a while, and if for some reason they're listening, they've gone a long way. Lance, Richie, you know who you are. They've gone a long way.
That's awesome.
And helped me get to where I was and helped me mature. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. How long before you were in the business that you decided, hey, this is where I want to stay?
So when I got my first paycheck, that was a help. But when I got in the industry, I was put in the modernization department. So for the first couple of weeks, all I did was coil rope. And man, I used to go, my arms were tired. And I kind of had trouble because the job they put me on downtown in Manhattan, they were like clockwork. And now all of a sudden this green newbie shows up, right? And it was kind of hard for me to adapt. So I know I seriously considered leaving. As a matter of fact, I think at some point I quit, maybe 6 months into it. But somebody else who worked there, he worked in the repair department, he showed up at my house. He said,
wow,
this is a good trade. You better make damn sure this is what you want. So I came back. I worked a little longer. They put me in the repair department. I worked with some really good guys over there, and they had time to teach me. And so yeah, that's how I got moving. So it was probably about a year into it or so.
Okay. And things started to click. You felt the support. You felt some confidence, maybe, and just okay. I can do this. I can like this. It's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, but it helps when you're young as well, because this is very physical, especially the repair groups and the modernization and conversion, I think they call it up there. But it's very physical.
Yeah, so. You tell me you don't want to coil rope today?
No, but I'll tell you this. So occasionally I'll go out in the field, and this happened not too long ago. These guys were I think they were doing a packing on a 2-stop hydro. And I happened to have a meeting I was coming out of, and I actually had a suit on, and I jumped in there and I gave him a hand, and I had I ruined it. I had hydro oil over my jacket, but it was fun, because I forgot how much fun it was doing ropes. It's fun fixing stuff,
right? Because
at some point in your career, you transition to planning, forecasting, purchasing, the political end of it. And you forgot how much fun it is and how challenging it is to work on elevators and escalators. So.
Yeah. No, there's definitely a reward, right? That is rewarding to fix something, to look at it and say, you know what, I did that?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I don't know if you've asked this question before, because I'm sorry, I haven't really listened to the podcast, but
Oh, good.
I don't know of an elevator man or woman today that still doesn't drive down wherever they live and work and point out to their kids, you see that building? I put the elevator in there, or I did this, or I did that. Because we all do it because we're proud. I don't know of any elevator mechanics that aren't proud of what they do. They're proud of the trade, and they're proud of what they do, and that's great.
Absolutely. So you were in New York for a couple of years, sounds like 2 or 3 years, and then you moved to DC. How long were you? I mean, you moved up with Metro, but have you stayed at Metro nonstop?
No, like we discussed before, for a short time, from 2000 to 2004, roughly in that time, I went to Florida and I opened an elevator inspection firm.
Okay.
And prior to that, actually, it morphed into that because I actually started a service company, and that was really rough.
Right.
Getting customers were rough, and at that time, Florida was going third party.
Okay.
So I was able to get in, and I got in with a couple of property managers and some other people that worked for Otis and Tisson. I was able to get some crumbs here and there and put something together.
Okay. So about 4 years, and then decided, hey, was that when you came back to Metro then?
Yeah. So there was an opportunity here at Metro, and having kids there, they weren't happy about leaving, but the schools are better here. It was a really good opportunity I didn't want to pass up, and so I uprooted them. I moved them back. That was not popular.
No, I hear you.
Mhm.
So tell me, let's talk a little bit more about Metro. I mean, you mentioned how many employees you have, and it sounds like an elevator service company, but obviously dedicated to specific, a specific, I don't even know what you call it, an organization, a
Right.
transit company, essentially. I don't know if it's public or private or how it works, but.
So Metro, Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, is a multi-jurisdictional transit agency. And they serve Northern Virginia, the District of Columbia, and Maryland. And it's unique because it serves so many jurisdictions, and funding is required upon those jurisdictions. And what's really neat is around 91 and 92, they decided to bring elevators and escalator service and maintenance of in-house.
So prior to that, you had contractors coming in and working on it all?
Correct. It was contractors that were in here, and actually all the way up till probably around the late 90s, it was contracted in some form or another.
Okay.
And until it takes a while to start something up.
Sure.
And then, you have to tool up, you have to man up, and then grow.
Sure.
So it took us quite some time to get to where we are now, but we're 255 strong, and we could use more people. So if helpers or helpers or technicians, go on the website, look it up, and you should be able to find us. We'd be happy to talk to you.
Yeah. Do you find that most or a lot of people just don't think of Metro as a place to take your elevator skills? Is that one of the challenges you see?
Yeah, I would agree, because when they started back in the early 90s and I was on the bench, I happened to be reading through the newspaper in the classified section back in the day, right?
Sure.
And I kept seeing this ad for Metro. And I was like, Metro, I'm pretty sure that's a train, right? That's the trains down there in DC. I had no idea that they had that they perform their maintenance in-house.
Okay.
So I applied and got the job. Yeah, but you normally don't think of a transit agency, but you'd be surprised. So it's not just transit agencies. I mean, I think we're the biggest one in-house because we have over 1,000 pieces of equipment.
Wow.
But But I mean, the federal government, the different the different arms of the federal government, they're all in-house. There's a lot of colleges that are in-house. So yeah, I think most guys don't think of that. They just think of working for an elevator company, big or small, union or not. And
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like it's served you well for a long time. You've grown. I think at one point you had mentioned retiring, but you're still there. So I guess that's on hold.
they keep paying me, Matt. I mean, give me something good. You keep giving me stuff. So for those that don't know, I'm sure you know. I tell you what, I've talked to Matt on and off for I don't know how many years now, and he's a go-getter, and I know a lot of people in the industry know him. And he calls me and from time to time, but everything you give me is here in DC. So
Awesome.
Find someplace sunny and we'll talk.
That's awesome. So as you look at the elevator industry as a whole, I'm just curious, and I know you're kind of in a little different spot than a typical contractor, for example, but what are some of the issues that you see that maybe affect the industry and being able to get the job done?
So things I see from my perspective anyway, I think a large part of the problem in the industry today, which I think code is finally starting to address, is the size of people's routes. I've talked to guys who have these 200 plus elevator routes that include 6 escalators, and there's just no way you can do that kind of maintenance, right? I think that's one issue. I think that's slowly starting to be recognized. I know there's some smaller elevator companies now that are concentrating just, more on maintenance. But I think the other thing is somehow, so when I work for Flynn Hill / Cone A and here at Metro, we have our own warehouse and we keep our own parts, our boards and everything we need in stock. And I guess over the years that has morphed into like an Amazon overnight type of thing.
Sure.
So you may have a supervisor who maybe didn't come from the elevator industry. So he's tasked to try to get this part for a customer, and that may lead to more downtime. And from a customer's perspective, they get frustrated. Sure. So I think those are the two things that really kind of stand out to me.
Yeah. No, that's and it's I'm sure it's a big challenge of how much inventory you don't want to keep versus how much can you bring just in time, and then you get some supply chain issues and just in time becomes way too late.
So it's true what you said. That's a really good point, because it costs money to keep a belt or a fuse or something on the shelf. It costs money to house that.
Sure.
But what makes us a little bit different is we don't have that bottom line that elevator companies have for profit. Sure. Our for profit is uptime, right? Okay. Keeping the equipment running, keeping the equipment safe for the public. And that's kind of our uptime. So I think that's the difference.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I would see that if you lose escalator service and you can't get people out of the tunnel very quickly, that's not smiled upon. When
do you know how deep some of our stations are?
Oh yeah, no, I've been on.
Oh yeah, they're pretty deep. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, what are some of the lessons that you've learned? As you and what would you like to share with our listeners? Some things you've learned over the years that you'd like to pass on.
So I think the one thing that stands out is you don't know everything. Every time you think you know something, think twice, because I don't know anyone who knows everything. And I think the people that do are probably in sales. But you don't know everything. You can learn from anybody. I mean, the industry is constantly changing, and there's new technologies out there. And, for some of us old timers, it's kind of hard to accept that new technology until you really see how it works and the engineering behind it. But it's not just that. It's just, I think by listening to people, talking to people, and not assuming you know everything will help you solve some problems that you didn't think of. So I would just say that, we all don't know everything. There's nobody in this industry that does.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sure it keeps you humble, right? Just because it's like there's always something that you can learn from
Oh,
somebody else, or
absolutely.
from the
Oh, yeah.
technology, or from
Hmm.
from a problem that maybe you just hadn't seen before.
Sure.
Yeah, that's cool. So, do you curious if you have any funny stories that you from being in the trade or working on the machines, or
I got some funny stories. I don't know if you want me to. I
that's always the problem, right? Is what can I
so
say?
I mean I got there's one clean one I'm sure I could tell. So yeah, I work. There's a lot of guys in the trade that have quite the sense of humor, and I've run across everything from hockey games with electrical tape to you name it on the job. But I think one of the funniest things was we were on top of a glass back elevator, and the car was in service, and we were on top, and it actually was the foreman I was with, and he took $100 bill and he put it on a piece of binding wire, and he put it just over the back of the glass back elevator, and he was watching people go in and out, and we had somebody. You should have heard the conversations. We had people that were ready to break the glass.
Wow.
I said, man, we gotta cut this out. But yeah, I mean, the little funny stories like that. I mean, a lot of guys are they're quite funny. One time, it was around 1990. I went to a building on Madison Avenue that had just been refurbished. All the floors were refurbished. I believe radio station WPLJ was in there. I was on top of the car doing some work, and I get off. I stop the car, I get off of the third floor, and I walk to the end of the hall. I go downstairs, I get my car, I don't think nothing of it, get my ticket signed and leave. I get home, I get a call from the service manager, and he is screaming at me that I'm going to pay for a carpet. And I said, well, what are you talking about? The car top was full of grease. I didn't realize that. It was a little dark. I didn't realize that it was on my feet, and I tore up an entire 30, 40 foot of brand new carpet. So long story short, they were going to make me pay for it, and the last second they said I'll have to make it up some other way. They didn't dock my pay for that, but yeah,
that's a hard lesson to learn there.
Yeah.
So Mitch, what advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out brand new in this industry?
So what I will say is I have met an awful lot of very talented young people just coming into this trade. I love to crack on Gen Z about everything, but I will tell you a large majority of who I see graduating out of our 4-year apprenticeship program are so much further ahead than we were at that age. Not just maturity, but intelligence. And they think a different way. They think more fundamentals and more where you can go. And I would tell them, hey, keep at it, because you're going to replace us very soon.
I guess the last question I want to ask you is, what do you love most about the elevator industry?
So I think one of the things I love most about the industry is that this is really, I mean, like I had said previously, this trade has been unbelievable to me. It put a roof over my head, put food on the table for my kids. I was able to send my kids to college. I was able to do, everything else that somebody who graduated high school with no skills could do. Sure. This is an amazing trade. It's an interesting trade. It's diverse. It's becoming more diverse, which is great. And I've really enjoyed it. I mean, I really have. It's 37 years, something like that, coming up on now. So yeah, it's been great, but maybe in a few years we'll try something different.
Yeah, awesome. Mitch, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, I really appreciate the invite. Thank you.
You bet. Good luck to you.
All right, take care.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group, a leader in elevator industry recruiting. You can check us out online at elevatorcareers.net. Please subscribe, and until next time, Stay safe.